Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. Jared has his background set up now. Looks good.
Thank
Did you spend all
you.
day
It took a
yesterday?
while. It's been a lot of
I
work,
mean,
a lot of
yeah, did you
toiling,
spend all
watching
day yesterday getting that done?
the Mounters did. I watched. Well, it was actually on Monday. On Monday after the show, they came and they mounted my TVs. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story, but I have these new TV setups with LED lights coming off of them. Very exciting. And then you can't see it now because it's underneath the bottom shelf, but there's a little LED. I mean, listen, we take very big importance to get the setups right. We want to make sure we look good for you, the audience, every morning.
Yeah. I know. Honestly, Jared is being bougie. He's got the absolute setup over there. He's in Vegas guy now with the shelving units,
Big
with
Vegas
the
guy.
LED lights. I mean, you got to do it, right? Vegas is known for its lights, camera, action. So
Exactly.
why not? We have a lot
It's like
to
a
get
casino
into today
in
with
here.
our show. Yeah.
I'll have like the slot machine numbers going like.
God bless. I know. And maybe a show if you want to, like one of those. Don't they have like shows at the hotels or something? Like
Oh
Blue
yeah,
Man Group?
like a show. Like I'll have like one of the magic shows. Actually, I'm more of a comedy guy. You know who's great in town at the Luxor? Carrot Top, phenomenal. I saw him recently.
Ooh.
Hilarious.
Very cool.
Like
love
great
that
shows
for
in
you.
town.
Love that for
Tremendous.
us.
Sorry for the
and
advertising.
love that I say. Love that. You love to see it. Zinna was giving me a bunch of shit yesterday for always saying you love to see it. But you want to know what you love to see is another day of Let's Bet It, because we got a lot to talk about. Better Up segment, getting into some MLB picks and action. My Fading the Tigers didn't necessarily go to plan yesterday, but we're back at it today with some red hot numbers. And we'll break it all down for you. We have the BMW Championship with Diane Knox Balas. A couple more weeks left in the FedEx Cup playoffs, so that's going to be exciting. And then we have SEC Heisman Watch. Couple of guys on that SEC list, one of them being the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. So we're going to break all those guys down. Lots to get into. So without further ado, my friend, let's get into it. Let's bet it. We start our Better Up segment with Is the Trend Your Friend? Let's make some friends today, Jared, because we're starting off with the Orioles run line. The Jays 0-10 in their last 10 on the run line, including yesterday.
I hope you've been reading Pickswise.com this season. That's the exact day that we posted it. It was on July 20th, 22nd, July 22nd. So it's been about a month. You've had about a month to digest the column we dropped about the Orioles being the best run line team like in baseball this season.
And they continue that.
Underdog. Yeah, especially as an underdog. Are they an underdog today is the question. Let me look really fast. Yeah, they are. So plus 1.5 would be the run line for Baltimore. Absolutely. You cannot fade this trend until the season ends. At this point, the Orioles are a must bet as an underdog run line almost every day. And I see no reason.
We have a trend, baby. We have a friend.
100%.
That is the trend.
Absolutely.
We are 1-0 for the day today. Next one. Look at your Yurfy Nerfy sheet, because Marlins Padres. This one's kind of random, but I found it and I'm like, why not throw it in there? The Padres are 9-0 on the Nerfy on the road versus the NL East in their last 9 games.
Yeah, I don't know where you find these trends. What dumpster do you dig these up from?
I can't tell you, because then it gives away my secret sauce.
Yes. Listen,
I
get it. I know.
More.
That's why I had to people got mad at me because I took the Nerfy sheet off public Google documents online because people steal it. It's proprietary information. Lauren's got the goods. She's got the juice. She's got the trends. All right, here we go. Padres, Marlins. It's juicy today. Clevenger, Lopez. That makes sense. That's why it's juicy. Those two guys have been solid this year. I'll be honest. I'm seeing at the price that DraftKings has -160 in comparison to my sheet, which is where these two guys are at with their Nerfy numbers this year. I'm not seeing any Nerfy value. In fact, it's one of the higher Yurfy values of the day because it's -160. You know, these bets are random and it's tough to lay more than 10 or 20 cents on them. So no, unfriend here, maybe an acquaintance because it should go Nerfy. but the odds don't make sense to bet it at minus 160, and that's the price matters.
What about
with these
this
picks
one?
we've tried.
Yeah,
What we got?
absolutely. What about this one? White Sox. Sox 7-0 in their last 7 home games.
You know, this is a big series for the White Sox. They beat Verlander last night, and I saw the odds to win the American League Central really start to tilt back towards Chicago, despite the fact that they're still a game back in the standings. This series for the White Sox is like a world. They get Houston, the best, let's be the best team in the American League right now. Sorry, Yankees. And they get them at home, and they get them at a time of the season when they really need to win games against good teams. Pitching matchup today, I can't say that it favors them. Kopech, Valdez. Kopech's been all over the place this year. So is Valdez, and we'll get to both of them later in our walks props. But I'll give you this one, LJ, because I think the motivation's on their side, and they need this game, and they won last night, so they've got momentum. So, yes, friend me the White Sox, despite the fact that—
Two friends. I love it. Okay, 2 more trends for you. Cubs versus Nats over. The Cubs 8-0 to the over, and their last 8 is road favorites.
Okay. Cubs 8-0 to the over, and their last 8 is road favorites. Drew Smiley,
Yes,
Corey Abbott today. Smiley's a lefty. I don't know what the Nats numbers are against lefties this season, but that should be the first place that you look. Yeah, I mean, listen, these two bullpens, they have nothing to play for. So they're not going to come in. They're not, the managers aren't going to manage each out like it's the World Series, like some of these games that matter a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I can get behind this trend. Yeah, you can friend me on this trend, even though the Nats
we got
don't
3
really
and
hit
1
lefties
for
that
today
well.
so far. Last one, my friend. We're sticking right here in Atlanta. Braves versus Mets. Nerfy. Braves 8-0 to the Nerfy in their last 8 home games against NL East teams, including the last 2 days against the Mets.
Scherzer, Odorizzi. So Scherzer gave up a run in his last start to the Nats, but that was a bit of a weird game. You know, anytime he goes back to Washington, it's always unique. The numbers say that the Nerfy has a little, like a slight sliver of value. So you give me the trend, you give me a little value to the Nerfy, you give me Max Scherzer coming off of a start where he gave up a run, which doesn't happen very often. I'll give you this one too. Friend me on this.
We got 4 friends today.
Let's go.
It's a party on a Wednesday. Happy hump day. Speaking of Yerfies and Nerfies, the no-run first inning went 8-7 yesterday. Things cooled off a little bit. They're 23 and 21 in the last 3 days. But Nerfies are still up 26.6 units since July 1st. It's pretty crazy. The Nerfies are absolutely on fire. Speaking of, you have a Nerfie for your play of the day, but we have a little bit to get into before that. So no walks parlay today, but you do have 6 walk props. Jared, please walk me through. I logged into our Google sheet and I'm like, Jared.
Lauren,
so how about we go through them?
I'll be very fast. I promise.
Okay, let's hear it.
At first I need to tell you why I'll be honest, at this stage of the season, I'm seeing a lot of value with these. A ton. Yesterday, if I would have been on the show yesterday, I had 7 on my card yesterday. They went 4 and 3. And I'm hitting these at like 68%. So I gotta keep putting pounding the pavement when we see the numbers that we like. Here we go. Pablo Lopez under. Here's my top one. Pablo Lopez under 2.5, minus 160 against the Padres. 74% hit rate this season. 84% if you include last year. 36 out of the last 43 have stayed under 2.5 for Pablo Lopez. That equates to minus 514 odds. And listen, this Padres lineup's trending down ever since the Tatis PED suspension. 3 straight unders since Saturday, which is when that suspension went final. So I'm fading the Padres lineup. We'll go under 2.5 on Lopez. Carlos Rodon, over 1.5 against the D-backs, laying 40 cents here. 65% hit rate on the year. That equates to minus 188 odds. And when I look at the D-backs, 18 of the last 25 lefties, over 1.5. That's 72%. That's minus 257 odds. This bet should be priced at minus 200. It's not. It's minus 140. That's why we like it. For Framber Valdez, over 1.5, minus 190. I don't care because he has a 68% hit rate on the season, which is minus 214 odds. And the White Sox, we've talked about the White Sox against lefties this year. Highest walk rate in baseball against southpaws at 11%. Love Valdez over 1.5. George Kirby over a hook. We only need one walk here. 75% hit rate on the season. That equates to minus 300 odds. Well, the bet's only minus 245. I feel good about that little 55-cent cushion there. And 20 of the last 25 righty starters have walked at least one batter against the Angels. That's an 80% hit rate. That's minus 400 odds. Everything about this bet is telling me minus 300 or higher, and we're only laying minus 245. That's why I love it. Michael Kopech talked about this Houston-Chicago game. Huge game here. It's going to be a nail-biter between these two teams. One of them really needs wins. The other one's gunning for that top spot in the AL. Over 1.5 for Kopech, minus 180 against the Astros. 76% hit rate on the season, 16 out of 21. That's minus 320. So I feel like we should be at minus 200 or higher with this bet. We're not. 25 straight righties have walked at least one against the Astros. 16 of that 25 have gone over. That's about 60%. Again, we're hovering in that minus 200 to minus 300 range with this bet, but we're laying only 80 cents. Finally, Adam Oller over 1.5, laying 50 cents against the Rangers. 64% hit rate on the year. That's minus 180 odds. 15 of the last 25 have gone over against the Rangers. That's 60%, right at around minus 150, which is where this bet is. But 7 of the last 10 against the Rangers, who are trending in a very positive direction, which gets us over that minus 200 mark. So I think this bet should be right around minus 200 as well. And again, we're only laying 50 cents. So I'll give you one. They're all on my sheet, by the way, which I'll put on after the show on my gambling spreadsheet. But Lopez under 2.5, Rodon, Valdez over 1.5, Kirby over a hook, Kopech, Oler over 1.5. 6 walk props today. I hope we go 4-2, 5-1. We're feeling really fine.
I hope we go 6-0, baby. Put it out there. Why
Can't
not?
expect to win
Don't
all.
sell yourself short, Gerard. Don't sell yourself short, okay? How about I give you? I know we talked about the Nerfy here at Truist Park between the Mets and the Braves. I am not fading my Braves because I think that they might still win this game, but I still like Max Scherzer and his strikeout prop going over 7.5. I know it's a big number. I'm laying 28 cents for it, but this guy is an absolute freaking stallion. He has an 8-2 record on the season, 1.93 ERA, 0.93 whip. He's averaging, Jared, 11 strikeouts through 9 innings pitched. And then you go on the road.
Wow.
That number goes up to 11.9 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. He's going up against the Braves, who don't necessarily have the best strikeout rate against righties. Over the last 2 weeks, they're striking out at a 24% rate. And he's gone over this total, Scherzer has, in 5 of his last 8 starts. One of them was an 11 strikeout performance about a week and a half ago against the Atlanta Braves. And he's only allowed 7 hits over his last 14 innings pitched against them. And listen to this, with a perfect 20-0 strikeout to walk ratio. This guy is like unreal. Scherzer has the Braves number this season. I like him going over this number, and it's not too juicy, just laying 28 cents for it. So why the heck not? But Max Scherzer, he's just so much fun to watch. Like, he's just so good at what he does. It's just insane. And even looking at his numbers,
I think the Mets are the one team that could beat the Dodgers this year. I'll be honest, if you asked me, pick one team in the National League that has a chance to beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series, I think it's the Mets because of Scherzer and DeGrom. And that's really the only and I put the Braves in that category too, but I think the Mets a little bit better with their rotation. And I think that's why
the Mets, I do
trust. Chance to.
You're right. I love the Braves. They have a lot of power, especially on the offensive side. Guys like Austin Riley, Matt Olson. Now they added, the new rookies that they have in Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris II. Like, their offense is amazing. I don't trust their pitching rotation as much because now you sent Ian Anderson down to the minors. In terms of a team in the National League,
they need a guy like Spencer Strider, who's a rookie, to go like 6 innings in a playoff game. And like, I don't know if that's possible. I trust a guy like Scherzer.
And he's working his way up there, I will say, just in terms of pitch count, et cetera, as he's getting more starts. But you're right.
What's his innings cap?
When it comes to playoffs,
just out of curiosity,
it's all about the rotation.
Do you know an innings cap on him?
And whichever rotation is the best is the rotation that's going to win. So it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold moving forward. I do have another strikeout prop, but it is my best bet of the day. So we're going to save that till the end of the show. But now let's take it from the park to the course. Bring in Diane Knox Balas, taking it to Wilmington, Delaware, a state that I have never been in my entire life, for the second FedEx Cup playoff event, the BMW Championship. Diane, how are you? Happy Wednesday.
Good morning, friends. I have to be honest, I did look up Delaware on a map, but I haven't.
Oh, stop it. It's right next to Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
And my husband's from Pennsylvania, so I was like, oh my gosh, I should have known that.
I like
Delaware
the
twice.
part that we're rocking today. I like the second part.
Oh, thank you.
It's looking good. The nice center part Diane's rocking today, my fave. Okay, so before we actually get into the tournament, I want to break down Tiger Woods. He's not playing, but he is meeting with a group of players, rallying support for the PGA Tour against the LIV Series at the tournament this weekend. Just your thoughts on that whole situation with Tiger kind of getting some of these PGA guys together and speaking to a lot of them in Delaware, of all places.
Yeah. So we heard at the start of the week that there was going to be this big meeting and that Tiger was going to be there. Then we found out it was only for the top 15 players in the world. And we saw Tiger fly in. Ricky Fowler was with him, which was really interesting to me because we've had a lot of rumors circulating about Ricky potentially joining LIV Golf. So maybe we can put them to bed now because I don't think Ricky would be with Tiger heading to this PGA Tour rally meeting. I haven't heard anything that went down in that meeting. The Player Advisory Council for the PGA Tour, the PAC, they met yesterday as well. And my brother is actually on the PAC, so I cannot repeat what he told me.
Oh!
But he came to my house last night and we had a juicy conversation about it all. So, yeah.
Hold on, let me take a sip of my tea.
I know. There's a lot of tea.
It's not tea, it's coffee, but you get the metaphor.
I have two hats in this golf world. I have to be the loyal sister of 100%. But we had there's a lot going on, and one thing that I think has been, quite commonly reported is that there is going to be a lot more money available for the guys on the PGA Tour, the guys that play well for sure. So there's going to be a lot of monetary incentive for them to hang around. And then today we hear about this lawsuit that Patrick Reed is suing Brandel.
What's up with that? I saw that come across my ticker last night. What does he have a case there? Because Brandel Chambly, what the hell? What did he do?
So Patrick Reed is suing them for defamation, and I read through part of it last night, and he has quoted things that have been shouted to him at golf tournaments. And he's basically blaming Brandel
from Chambly
and Golf Channel.
So wait,
no, from people in the crowd that have shouted.
He's blaming Chambly for that.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Crazy.
People will sue anyone these days.
I was like that. I'm same as you. I read it last night and was like, there's so many parody accounts going around right now that I thought this is a joke. There's no way that this is happening, but it's for real. So I say this every week when we talk about it. It's such a bizarre time in golf. So weird. But this huge court case against the PGA Tour from 10 of the LIV golfers isn't going to take place until middle of next year. So this is going to roll on for a substantial amount of time. And if these smaller lawsuits are going to come up in the meantime, cool, we'll talk about it. But what a bizarre time. The only thing, I think that it's great that Tiger is going to talk to everyone. He's obviously going there to say hey,
it's like the Godfather. He's like the Godfather getting the meeting of all the families together, being like, listen, we got to be solid, solidarity here.
And then you look at last week, we had Rory and Jordan and Scottie Scheffler all missed the cut. Scottie Scheffler's no longer number one in the FedEx Cup standings. All these rumors that Cam Smith is going to LIV. He's not playing this week because of hip discomfort. Cam Smith would have been at that meeting. Very weird knowing that he might be going to LIV. So who knows?
There's so much going on in the golf world right now, especially with the guys that are not playing in the tournament this weekend, the lawsuits going on. But let's focus on the guys that are, because I'm looking at your sheet right now. You have a guy like Jon Rahm at 14-1. He won this event back in 2020. He tied for 5th last week at St. Jude. Maybe some momentum can be on his side heading into this weekend.
Yeah, he tied for 5th last week. It was very quiet, a very quiet performance. It wasn't really shouted about. I mean, we had a great playoff, and Will Zalatoris finally getting that win, which everyone was happy.
Yay!
So we love Will. So that was great. Jon Rahm, his wife just gave birth to their second son, and he knew he was going to be away for 3 weeks for this playoff stretch. But this is Wilmington Country Club. There's never been a PGA Tour event here before. So we don't have any course history to really go off of, but it's a long course. We can see that right away. Jon Rahm being the long hitter that he is. I loved it. I mean, 14-1, he's definitely one of the favorites. But last week, he was 3rd off the tee, 1st in scrambling, 1st in greens and regulation. It just shows that his game's in a really solid place. We know how great he is off the tee and driving the ball. So I really like him this week. He's sitting at number 14 in the FedEx Cup standings. So we're definitely going to see him next week at East Lake. But these guys have got the FedEx Cup and that $18 million on their mind. So I love Rahm to really get fired up this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of money on the line here. We were talking about before the show. You get millions of dollars with every single putt as the field shrinks. And I'm with you with Rahm. We were talking about this too. I mean, very quiet top 5 last week. Hasn't won in months. And a guy like Jon Rahm only have 1 win on tour this year after what he's done in the prior couple of seasons, I thought is surprising. So he's due for one, as they say. Justin Thomas has had a couple of nice wins this year, including a major, right? But I think this is a good spot for him as well. And you agree. Tell us why.
Yeah, again, Justin Thomas is just a phenomenal competitor. So when you talk about these guys that really want to win every time they tee it up, Justin Thomas is that guy. And I know that I said that they've never hosted a PGA Tour event here before, and this might not count for much. But when I was doing my research, he played in the winning US team in the Arnold Palmer Cup back in 2013 when he was just a young lad. So he has a little bit of course knowledge. The course has changed since then. A tornado had ripped through and they had to replace the bunkers. They've added about 200 yards length. So it is a little bit different. They've also switched around some of the routing of the course for the tournament this week just to allow for spectator tents and whatnot. But Justin Thomas has a little bit of familiarity when he steps onto the property this week. That worked for Matt Fitzpatrick at the US Open, remember? That was one of my big selling points. So I thought, can't leave JT off my card this week. He is 10th in the FedEx Cup standings right now. Finished top, 13th last night, the tie for 13th last week. So, I like him this week. 16-1. Got to put JT on there.
Yeah, I really do like that. Another guy I like that's on your card at 28-1 is Cam Young. This is going to be a long course. And last week, Cam Young finished 2nd in strokes gained tee to green. So how do you think that can kind of fit into this course and possibly get him a win this weekend?
Yeah, I think he would have been disappointed with his play last week, just by his recent standards, finished 31st. But again, huge hitter. He's from the north. So this course, he's going to feel very at home, I think, when he steps onto the tee this week. But we've talked so much about him this season. 5 runner-up finishes. And he's still searching for that debut win. Him and Will Zalatoris were the top 2. I mean, they had made both well over $6 million this season without a win. And I think seeing Will get that win last week just might push Cameron on a little bit further. He only needs a little bit more to get over the line. We saw how great he played at the Open Championship. As you say, it hits the ball a mile. So I like him 28-1 to win, but plus 550 for a top 5. I'm definitely going to put that on my card this week too.
Love that. I mean, listen, Cameron Young's that other guy other than Will Zalatoris that were right there on the cusp of getting their first PGA Tour wins. And Will, you're right. I do like the motivation factor of seeing his young lad Will get across the finish line. Now it's Cameron's turn. So I'm just going to put Delaware facts in the show now because you guys inspired me. The only 2 NFL quarterbacks that have ever played at Delaware, Joe Flacco and Rich Gannon. So there you go. There's some Delaware trivia for you. Brian Harmon probably has no connection to Delaware in any way, shape, or form, but he's a lefty. We love lefties, and he's 75-1. That's a pretty good price for a guy that's been sniffing the top of the leaderboard all season, Diane.
He has been sniffing for sure. And he goes against my model a little bit in that he's not a super long hitter. I mean, nowhere near it, but he's very, very accurate. And I think when you go to a new course, if you can keep the ball in the fairway, I've heard the rough this week is going to be brutal too. So I think, with that accuracy stat, and someone who's as good around the greens and on the greens as Brian Harman, then I don't see him having a massive problem with the course. He played great last week, and he's now shot up to number 23 in the FedEx Cup standings. Oh, wow. So for him, really good position, because the top 30 will play next week in the Tour Championship. At number 23, there's no cut this week. So you'd think that he's kind of safe. There's usually volatility with about 5 spots. However, it's not guaranteed. So he's going to have to play well. But last week, top 10, tee to green, approach, and greens and regulation. So he's playing really well. As I said, that putting stat fell slightly for him last week, but we've got really big greens here this week. So I don't see him having a massive problem. But Brian Harman, 75-1. As you see, I've been on him all season, so don't want to stop now.
Yes, you have.
Yeah. I know you always have a good old top 5, top 10 sort of pick heading into the weekends. Tony Finau and Adam Scott, you have both of these guys. And again, it's a long course. Should be a lot of birdies flying. It's hard to not like Tony Finau in this spot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these two I felt were a little bit boring for top 5 and top 10, but I'm like, hey, listen, when it comes to trying to make money, sometimes you have to be a little bit boring. And Tony Finau for a top 5. I mean, we saw him back-to-back wins and then a top 5 last week at the FedEx Championship. So he's playing great. We know that. He's a huge hitter. He was within the top 10 putting last week as well. His game is in just the best place it's ever been in his life right now. And I would love to. His goal is to win the FedEx Cup. He spoke about that openly after he won just a few weeks ago. So yeah, Tony Finau for a top 5 at plus 300. You never want to say easy money, but there's no way in the world that I wasn't going to take that pick. And then Adam Scott, this is such a great story. Top 10 for plus 450. He's just having, again, a phenomenal end to the season. He finished T5 last week and made an enormous jump up in the standings. He was out with the top 70. And jumped all the way up to, I think it was 40 something he is now. But
that's
he
huge.
Was first in,
he made himself a lot of money last week, huh?
It's true.
I tell you, the best story from last week, though, was Lucas Glover, who was like number 122 in the standings. And he finished in a tie for 3rd. Let me get this correct number. He jumped up to 34th last week. So
I mean, he probably made 5 million, a chance to make $5 million in one tournament because of, going on to the next round.
It just goes to show, I spoke about it last week, the volatility and the movement, especially in that round of the playoffs. And again, it can happen this week. But Adam Scott was first in strokes gained putting last week, 12th around the greens. He's a huge hitter. As I said, form of his life right now. So top 10 for Adam Scott. And what an amazing time for him, a guy that's like,
what a great price on this top 10 too.
Yeah, that's really 450. So Finau and Scott, my prop bets this week. And it's another fantastic week. The BMW Championship is so good because at top 70, as I said, no cut. And the guys need to get into that top 30 because they know they've got the chance to go for the FedEx Cup and win a huge amount of money.
You're hitting it outright this week, Diane. It's happening. I'm telling you, I love this card. You really nailed this card. You're hitting it outright this week.
Let's make it happen, baby. I love to see it. Fingers crossed for you, Diane. We got another weekend of the FedEx Cup playoff in the beautiful state of Delaware that none of us have ever visited before. For the BMW Championship. Diane, have a great weekend. Best of luck with your bets. We'll be talking to you next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
There's no sales tax in the state of Delaware, by the way, in case you didn't know. Another Delaware.
Did you Google Delaware or what?
Yes. Well, no, I knew those two things because I've been to I used to live in Philly, so I've been to Delaware before. And when I worked at LaSalle, we played Delaware a lot. So I've been to Delaware a bunch. I'm very familiar with the Blue
so
Hens.
You actually have been to Delaware. I have never been to Delaware.
I've been to Delaware twice.
Okay. Wow, more times than I'll probably
no
ever
state
go
tax or no sales tax, and Joe Flacco, Rich Gannon, the two heroes of Delaware.
I love it. Well, Delaware just seems like a great place to be. Della, I was like, Della, where the heck is this state located on the map? You know what I mean? But it's fine. Okay, let's take it from the course to the field, because we got some college football chat. The first college football game about 8-9 days away. It's crazy that it's literally right around the corner. It feels like the summer has flown by, but I'm so excited to talk about college football and capping it starting next week. Let's get into the SEC Heisman Watch, because a lot of really great players from down here in the South in the SEC on this list. One of them including Bryce Young, right now sitting at plus 380, the second best odds. Reigning Heisman Trophy winner, one of the favorites for him to win again this year, but for a lot of reasons, there's no value here. Like, Jared, do people expect Bryce Young to be that much better? Because expectations at this point are almost getting unrealistic for a guy like this.
100%, you nailed it. So unlike other bets like the walk props that we do, when we can say, okay, it hits at this percentage of times, the bet should be priced this. These markets, as we've discussed, are narrative based in large part. So it's really hard to quantify the true value of what someone's odds should be, especially at this stage of the season before we have any statistics to go off of. And the way that you framed it, it will take a better year for Bryce Young to win the Heisman, second year in a row.
Yes.
And that's because the precedent, the history, the voter fatigue is real. There's only been one player in the history of college football to win this award twice, and that was Archie Griffin way back in the 70s. Yeah, it's been a really long time since it's happened. Not only that,
about 50 years, Jared.
Math. A lot of Heisman trophies have been handed out. Only one guy has won it twice. Another thing to keep in mind here, voter fatigue just with Alabama. We've had 2 consecutive Alabama players win this award. There has never been a school win a Heisman Trophy 3 straight years. It's only happened a handful of times twice. Oklahoma had it recently with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. But prior to that, we hadn't had back-to-back winners from the same school since the 30s and 40s with Army and Yale and guys that you've never heard of that were going off to war. So it's going to be really hard for Bryce Young or anyone from Alabama to win it this year because of all the voter fatigue involved. I would minus a lot of value from all of the Alabama players because of that voter fatigue. Regardless of how good they are this year, they're going to have to be that much better to outrun the market and outrun what the success of the Crimson Tide.
He's going to be He's going to have to be that much better with a lesser receiving core. They lost Jamison Williams, John Mechie III to the NFL, and I was looking up some stats. When both of those guys were on the field last year, they averaged 8.7 yards per drop back. Without one or both of those players, that number dropped to 6.4 yards per play.
Huge.
Jermaine Burton, they have a sophomore wideout. They're hoping he's just as good this year, but their receiving core is nowhere near what it was last year. And like you said, only one player has ever won the Heisman twice in Archie Griffin. And I mean, we all know who Archie Griffin is. This requires a historic season for a guy like Bryce Young. I wouldn't bet on it for him, but I am excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Another guy that I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do is Will Anderson Jr. 16-1 odds right now, the 4th best odds to win the Heisman. He's the Bama edge rusher. And this is coming from a Michigan gal who loves Aiden Hutchinson. This guy deserved as many votes last year as Hutchinson got. You look at Anderson Jr.'s stat line. It's better than a kid can produce playing Madden on Xbox. He had 102 tackles, 33 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, 3 pass breakups. He led the country in sacks. He ranked 2nd in quarterback pressures at 73. Now he's back for his junior year. He could be a good outside pick, but again, like you were saying, the voter fatigue with Alabama.
Also, the last defensive player to win this award was your boy Charles Woodson back in the 90s.
I know it was.
So what is the precedent for a defense? So we have the Alabama voter fatigue to overcome, and we have the defensive precedent of it's really, really hard. And again, Woodson was a special teams guy. He returned kicks and punts. So I don't think you can put Will Anderson in this conversation. As good as he can be, I think there are too many historical obstacles for him to overcome here to make a serious bet on him to win the Heisman. Now, that doesn't mean he might not be the number one player taken in the draft. I don't know. I think he's coming out this year. I don't know what his eligibility status is, but I don't see him as a Heisman Trophy candidate. I don't.
Yeah. Okay, let me give you something. I know only one defensive player has won since Charles Woodson in 1997, my Michigan man, and he did play special teams. What if Nick Saban let a guy like Anderson Jr. play tight end in addition to linebacker in a few easy winnable games, a few touchdown receptions, might put this guy over the top? Why not?
Give him the ball like William the Fridge, like William Refrigerator Perry. Let him jump over the goal line like the Super Bowl. That's what I would do if I was Saban. Nick Saban doesn't strike me as a guy that would do that. He's not like a gunslinger type, but
definitely
you're right.
Outside,
that would change things.
That would change things. But I'm like, if this guy had 3-4 touchdown passes, he might be in consideration and at least have a little bit more of a chance to be winning this thing. And even Will Anderson Jr. came out and said, I want to win the Heisman this year. Like, dream big, kid. I'm all about that. Dream freaking big. What about Hendon Hooker at 40-1? It's tied for the 12th best odds with another SEC player. This guy's definitely a dark horse candidate to win this year. He had a breakout year last year. He transferred to Tennessee after 3 bad seasons at Virginia Tech. Last year passed for 2,945 yards in 11 starts through 31 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completed 68% of his passes, Jared. His passing yards were 10th most in a single season by a Tennessee quarterback, and his 31 passing touchdowns, the 3rd most. For him to win, the team probably has to have a solid season, but he could be a good outside look.
So now we're starting to get down to the odds where I'd be willing to take a flyer on a guy. 40-1, you might be able to shop around and find a better price. And you're starting to check the boxes of what we look for when we're betting a preseason Heisman. A quarterback in a new place, Joe Burrow, remember that year? B, a team that has a chance to unseat someone that was in the playoff last year, Georgia. In the SEC East, Tennessee. They're going to get a chance. It's going to be in Athens. Maybe you'll be at that game. Who knows? But they will get a chance to go to Athens and unseat the SEC East champs. That's interesting to me at 40-1, especially when the early part of the schedule, Ball State, Pittsburgh, Akron, home game against Florida, at LSU. Here's the problem. They also have to face Alabama this year. So in the SEC East, some teams get a reprieve from the Warden and don't have to face Alabama. Unfortunately, Tennessee's not one of those teams. Now, they do get Bama at home, but I would rather bet – like, what I'd rather do is I'd rather let the season start, see how Hooker looks. The number won't move too much in the first week or two. And if you feel really confident about it, you can make up some of that value by betting Tennessee money line against Bama, because they're going to have to beat Bama for him to have any chance to win the Heisman. So that's how I would play that. But yes, he is definitely on the watch list because of Tennessee's upside this year and because he's in a new place and he plays the position that is the most coveted.
Absolutely. Here's the thing for me is Tennessee needs to get at least 10 wins probably for him to win. Yes. Fun fact for you, only Tim Tebow and Lamar Jackson won the Heisman playing on a team with fewer than 10 wins. They're the only 2 quarterbacks that have won on a team with fewer than 10 wins. Isn't that crazy? I know. I was looking that up.
Lamar surprises me. Louisville didn't win 10 games that year? Wow.
Fun fact. Also, every quarterback that's won since 2016 has passed for over 4,000 yards. So this guy needs to finish with like 5,000 total yards, 1,000 in rushing to be in consideration for the Heisman this year. If he's healthy, he'll probably make 13 starts instead of 11. I don't know if he's going to win, but it is a good outside look to at least get into the ceremony, which would be pretty cool for him. Finally, Anthony Richardson, 40-1 odds. I'm not super high on this guy, but his odds absolutely soared after their spring game this year. He completed 18 of 24 passes, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushed for 22 and a score. He's the outright starting quarterback this year for the first time there. And he showed some great moments as a backup behind Emory Jones, but he could be another good outside pick. He is tied at this point with Hooker at 40-1 odds.
I'd rather have Hooker. I'd rather have Tennessee than Florida. Florida's first 2 games are against Utah and Kentucky. And Utah maybe has the best defense in the country, or at least top 5, top 10. And Kentucky's defensive line has been churning out some stars in recent years. Their front 7. So I'm scared for those 2 games because he's again a new quarterback starting for the first time in a new in a situation where he hasn't started before in the SEC, and his first 2 games are absolutely brutal. And I think Florida is not going to be as good as Tennessee is this year. So if I had to pick one of those 2 outside quarterbacks to make a bet on, I would absolutely look at Mr. Hooker instead.
Yeah.
Mr. Richardson.
No, I agree with you too. And another thing that worries me too about Richardson is, like, I know he's under a new head coach in Billy Napier. He needs to make smart decisions. He needs to avoid turnovers. But I looked at this dude and his strength. He could throw the football 75 yards in the air. That's insane. He runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. But it has worried me that he's been battling injuries since high school. He had a hamstring, recently a minor knee surgery. So if you are going to get a guy at 40-1 odds, I think that Hendon Hooker is the way to go in this spot. But it is going to be interesting to see how this SEC battle continues moving forward with college football right around the corner. I can't even wait. All right. Best bets of the day and Pickswise.com 3-star play of the day. I think the site is down right now, so no 3 stars, but it will be back up in a little bit, so we'll give you those. But our best bets, Jared and I both have 3-star play of the day is in our mind. Number 1 on the field, number 3-star in my heart. Is that how it works? 3-star on the heart, number 1 in my...
Something like that.
Whatever. Anyways, you know what I'm saying. Let's get into your Nerfy, and then I'll give you my strikeout prop to finish it out.
Yes, I've got a big Nerfy for you today. So I really like this one a lot, and it's an interleague game, which makes me like it even more. So Boston, Pittsburgh, I'm laying 10 cents here at the Westgate. So we got Rich Hill, 10-7 of the Nerfy this year, which doesn't sound like a really great record, and it's not. His record jumps a little bit when you take the bigger sample size. But when I look at Rich Hill's first inning data this year, I think he's gotten a little unlucky because his FIP is in the 3s. And his walk rate's under 5%. So he's not putting a lot of guys on base, and he's not giving up a lot of hard hits, but he's giving up some Nerfies. He's giving up some runs in the first inning this year. So I think we're going to see some positive regression for Rich Hill. On the other side, the starter for the Pirates, Roansy Contreras, we've talked about him before. Mark Zeno loves this kid. And this is an interesting spot for Contreras. So he started he started 9 games between May and July. Went 9-0 to the Nerfy. Had great stuff. ERA was solid in the 3s, but they sent him down to AAA to work on his command, to control his innings, whatever Pirates decided to do with their younger pitchers. Not because he wasn't performing well, just because of the way that the Pirates system is, I guess how they control their starting young starting pitcher talent. So now Contreras is back. He got called up yesterday. This kid's got to be chomping at the bit to get out there and pitch. He's been in the minors for over a month. And he's like, what did I do? I pitched well when I was in the majors, and you sent me down anyways. And it's the Pirates we're talking about here, not a ton of talent. So 9-0 to the Nerfy. And again, the motivation, the chip on his shoulder is going to be high tonight. I think he's going to come out throwing smoke. Now let's look at the lineups. Well, just 5 combined at-bats for Pittsburgh and Boston against the opposing pitchers because it's interleague. They don't play each other a ton. So I love the fresh look for both lineups against the starting pitchers in the first inning. And both lineups are pretty bad anyways. Pittsburgh is well below average at home, under 20%. And Boston is about average on the road at 29%. And they scored 4 runs in the first inning yesterday. And you know how we feel about the back and forth nature of these bets. A team that's an average team that scored 4 runs yesterday, especially with a guy like Contreras on the mound who no one really in this Boston lineup has seen, who's got really good stuff, who's got a huge chip on his shoulder. I feel great about this at -110. Probably should be priced closer to -120 or -130. And that is our play of the day. Red Sox Pirates Nerfy at PNC Park.
No runs, but we're hoping for a lot of strikeouts, Jared. Guess what? I am back on the fading the Angels game. This is my favorite spot. It's my favorite thing to do. Every single time when I fade the Angels at a strikeout prop, most of the time I win. It usually happens when the Angels and a right-handed pitcher are being married together and going against one another. So I like George Kirby here Over 5.5 strikeouts, laying 35 cents for it. Over the last 2 weeks, I talk about the Angels. They have a strikeout rate of 27% against righties. That is ranked second worst in Major League Baseball. For the season, they're averaging 9.63 strikeouts per game, the absolute worst in the league. Over the last 3 games, averaging 11.33 strikeouts per game. And in their last game, Jared, they punched out 13 times. The Angels suck right now. They also only have a walk rate of 6.6%, a WRC plus of 82. The struggle has been real for them this season. Kirby has 6 or more strikeouts in 2 of his last 3 starts, and one of those was an 8 strikeout performance against the Angels. We're fading the Angels again. George Kirby over 5.5 at -135. I got that on DraftKings. His prop wasn't actually up on FanDuel. I don't know if it is right now, but make sure to check that out on DraftKings. So, and before we do have a 3-star play of the day. Keith Schmelter has a Nerfy in the Dodgers-Brewers game, so make sure to go to Pickswise.com to check it out. Jared, it's been so much fun doing the show.
Schmelter's been on fire too. Like anytime it's actually funny because that was the other Nerfy on my card I really liked today, Lauer Gonsolin. And now that Schmelter's on it, who's been unbelievable this year with his baseball 3 stars, I'm absolutely betting that Nerfy. So add that Nerfy to my card today, friends.
Schmelter,
whoever Schmelter dealt it.
Yeah, Schmelting the money right out of the sports books, baby. That's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Jabara. See you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.